So good morning to all of you. I am brother Joars Alferez from the Order of the Discalced Carmelite Secular. So this morning I'll be sharing with you about the peace and intercultural solidarity. So by the way, I am presently connected in the Cotabato State University here in Cotabato City. So this morning, this presentation with your seminar, I'll be sharing with you once again peace and intercultural solidarity. Then we move on. I think you have already an idea about peace. So yesterday, Dr. Cantaliup has also mentioned a lot of the definition about peace. And in your mind, this is just a sort of review as an introductory of this discussion. If you want to see the picture, so why is it that there is a need for us when we talk about peace? Then, there are sayings, according to Mother Teresa, we do not need guns and bombs to bring peace. We need love and compassion. Love and compassion. If you want peace, dapat may love as well as this compassion. And I think you still remember the song of Mucha in one of the teleserye before in the EBS-CBN. And I think you're familiar with the song. Sana'y pag-ibig na lang ang isipin ng bawat isa sa mundo. Sana'y wala ng away, sana'y wala ng alitan, sana magkaroon tayo ng kapayapaan. That's all what we want is peace. If there is love, there is compassion, we don't need guns as well as bombs in order to attain the so-called peace. Then, works of love are works of peace. Once again, according to Mother Teresa, a well-known nun in the Catholic Church, she was now proclaimed as saint. And before, when he was still living, he was known as the living saint from India, Calcutta. Then another saying, peace begins with a smile. Peace begins with a smile. When you smile, you are bringing good vibes. You are bringing peace to each other. Tingnan yung katabi ninyo kung nakasimangot ba or nakasmile. Because peace begins with smile. Another thing, the art of living in peace is teaching peace. If you want to achieve peace, therefore you have to teach peace. Another thing, if we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. That's once again according to Mother Teresa. If we don't have peace or no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. And which is very true. That's why for the sake of humanity, please, sana mayroon tayong tinatawag na kapayapaan because we are a family and we belong to each other. Whatever is our religion, whatever is our idea, but we belong to each other. If you look at the image here, the picture, and if you will be asked what is peace, I think in your mind, meron kayong idea dyan. If there is war, of course, there is no peace. But if there is peace, children will be happy. The earth, hindi nasisira yung ating mundo. Ang ganda ng buhay pag wala yung gera. That's why, once again, Mother Teresa said, we don't need guns and bombs. But what we need is love and compassion. One of the scientists, by Albert Einstein, he said, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding, which is similar to what Mother Teresa said. We do not need guns and bombs just to achieve the so-called peace. The other definition, it is harmony and cooperation. When we talk about peace as harmony and cooperation, there are four aspects. peace with yourself, harmony with yourself, harmony with our relationship to others, then harmony with nature, of course. That's why we had the topic about environmental care, because that's part of peace, harmony with the creature, the creation, or the God's creation. Then lastly, the last aspect is harmony with the Creator, with the Supreme, with our God. And that's peace and cooperation. Then, as a sort of review, in peace, there are frameworks, the 6 issues of peace. First, dismantling the culture of war, living compassion and justice, building cultural respect, reconciliation, and solidarity, promoting human rights and responsibility, living harmony with the earth, and nurturing inner peace. So these are the 6 issues. You look at the petals. They are interconnected. They are related with each other. If you want to talk about the culture of peace, the 6 issues will be interrelated. If you talk building cultural solidarity, in which is our topic today, we also talk with environment and the rest of the issues. So now we move on. So we know very well that in Mindanao, we have the so-called tribe people, according to Tribe Commission. And who are these tribe people? Of course, the indigenous people, the Lumad, or the natives, the Islamites, and they call themselves as Moro, and of course, the Christians or the settlers. So these are the tribe people in our land in Mindanao. So the Lumads or the indigenous people in Mindanao, there are 18. But all over the Philippines, there are a lot, more than 18. But here in Mindanao, we have 18. And you are familiar with this. Arumanen, Atamanobo, or the Bagobo in Davao and Cotabato, the Banwaon or Diblaan in South Cotabato, the Dibabawon or Higawnon in Davao as well as in Bukidnon, the Mamanwa in Surigao, Agusan as well as in Butuan, the Mandaya, of course, your place, you have plenty of Mandaya here. Kaya nga, madayaw na pag-abot sa Davao. Then, Manguswagon Manobo or the Mansaka also in Davao as well as in Cotabato. Then, Matigsulog or the Subanen in Agusan as well as in Zamboanga. Then, Tagakaulo ang Talaindig. Makikita sila sa Bukidnon. Of course, the Tibuli in South Cotabato. Then, we have also the Tiduray. Before, it was Sharif Cubongson province, but this is in our place, especially here in OP, in Cotabato, the South and North OP, there are a lot of Tiduray. And then the last one is the Obo in Davao as well as in Zamboanga. So those are the IPs I'm talking in Mindanao. There are 18. Then of course the Moro. The Moro is also composed of 13 tribes. The Moro is composed of 13 tribes. Then the big tribes are the Maguindanaon, the Maranao, and the Tausug. So medyo marami-rami yun sila. Then the rest, the Yakan, the Badjao, the Kalagan, the Sangil, the Iranon, Palawane, Milbugnon, Kalibugan, and Jamamapon. Mga minority sila among the Bangsamoro groups. Now, we already know that the tribe people in Mindanao. Of course, the settlers, there are also a lot. The Cebuanos, the Ilonggos, the Ilocanos, and the rest of the settlers in Mindanao. Now, we all know that all these tribe people, we have cultures, different cultures. Though there are similarities, but there are also differences of this culture. So that's why our topic for today is all about peace and intercultural solidarity. So now, we have to review once again. What about culture? When you're still in college, you're very much familiar with the word culture. But as a review, so there are a lot of definitions when you talk about culture. According to Edward Taylor, culture refers to that complex whole which includes knowledge, beliefs, art, morals, law, customs, and any other capabilities and habits acquired by man as a member of the society. So that's according to this researcher, to this author, Taylor. Then another, Robert Redfield also said that culture is an organized body of conventional understanding manifest in art and artifacts which persisting through traditions characterizes a human group. So still related to what the other definition said. Now, the very common definition of the word culture, if you still remember your sociology before, it is a system of a shared beliefs, values, customs, behaviors, and artifacts that the members of the society use to cope with their world and with one another, and that are transmitted from one generation to generation through learning. So this is a transmission, a shared beliefs, cultures, traditions, behaviors, as well as the philosophy of life, and that's culture. Then there are types of culture. The first one is the material culture. And this refers to the concrete and tangible things that man creates and uses. They range from prehistoric stone tools to primitive man to the most advanced computer and of the modern man. So that's material, nakikita before and nowadays. It's still there. Then what about the non-material? From the definition before, this non-material consists of words of people use. So the words of people use, the habits they follow, the ideas, the customs and behavior that any society professes to which they strive to conform, like the laws, the techniques, the lifestyle, the knowledge are included on this non-material culture. Now we know that there are two types, the material as well as the non-material. So once again, this non-material, it is the words of people, okay, na hindi siya tangible. Now, there are also characteristics when we talk about culture. So, first is, culture is learned and acquired. I think we'll agree all of that. Or we have to agree. Then, culture is shared and transmitted. Same is to with the definition, it is shared. Then, culture is social. And we know that one. Then, culture is ideational, from the word idea. Then, culture gratifies human needs. Then, it is also adaptive. Then, tends towards integration. And culture is also accumulated. Then the question, if you still remember the question during your sociology, when you're still in college, can we change culture? And I think during your time, you're debating, there are pros and cons. Can we change culture? No, we cannot change. Yes, we can change culture if it is not in conformity with the majority. So therefore, we can change culture. Until now, our brothers and sisters, the IPs, they are still culture na sila-sila lang mismo. And minsan, it does not conform with the majority. When I went to Dulangan, their burial, tinatakpan nila yung kanilang, gawa sila yung kahoy, then tinatakpan ng mabuti, saka yan, linalagay lang sa kanilang bahay. Minsan katabi nila natutulog. Hindi niya mabaho kasi grabe yung kanilang pagtali. But, is it acceptable to the majority? But that's their culture. But now, hinay-hinay they learn. And there are also some IPs na when they die, they hang yung the cadaver, hinahang nila sa kahoy. Is it acceptable? So that's the question. Can we change culture? For them, no, you cannot. This is our practice. This is our tradition. This is our custom, our belief. But if it does not conform with the majority, if it is accepted. And I think, pwede naman sigurong baguhin. But not instant. It should be hinay-hinay. Okay? And there are also belief. And part of the culture, I'm coming from Libungan. Before, when I was still young, yung mga patay nila, isa lang ang hinuhukay. Pag may namatay sunod pariente, isa pa rin. Then minsan tinatanggal, so babaho yan. Kung may sakit yun, contagious disease. And that's part of their culture. Sabi nila, kasi pag iba-iba na yung libingan, halos mamamatay sila. So that's their belief, that's their idea when they talk about culture. But nowadays, they were able to adapt. That's why culture is also adaptive. Okay, so those are the characteristics of culture. Then there are elements, of course. We are familiar with this. First is the norm. These are the guides or models of behavior, like the folkways, the mores, the mores, as well as the law. So you have to follow this one. This is the norm. That's first elements. Then the second, values, represent the standards we use to evaluate the desirability of things, like the achievement and success. We value that one. Activity and work, and of course, and that's one element. Then under that values, we have also the moral orientation, humanitarian, efficiency, and practicability. Then another element is language. Refers to the system or symbols that have specific and arbitrary meaning in a given society. So it depends to the group in which are using that language. Then next is the fashion, the fad, and the craze. These are other elements of culture that are short-lived social norms with which people are expected to comply with. So those are the elements of culture. Now, we have the term culture shock. I think you are familiar with culture shock. Kailan ito nangyayari? That's why every time we go to the big cities, sinasabi natin na wala yan sa amin. Wala yan sa bundok. And that's all about culture shock. Masashock ka. So, this occurs when people encounter a culture whose patterns of behavior are diverse from their own. So, kaya nga, wala yan sa bundok. They might get disoriented, disorganized, a situation brought about by unfamiliarity. That's why magkako-culture shock ka. And I have my personal experience. Taga-bundok ako. Then when I entered the seminary, I went to the big cities in the south, in Cebu City. Then one time, I was told by my rector in the seminary to get the streamer, kasi wala pang tarpaulin during that time, yung streamer, in one of the companies, the San Miguel Corporation in Mandaue City. Then, together with me is my classmate in the seminary, also from Cebu, but taga-bundok din siya. So, pareho kami. I'm coming from Cotabato na taga-bundok, although siya din taga-Cebu, but taga-bundok. Then, when we arrived to the San Miguel Corporation, of course, para hindi masyado mahalata na ignorante, nagtanong kami sa security guard. Then sabi namin, sir, saan banda dito ang 8th floor na doon daw namin kunin yung streamer? Sir, punta ka dito, sir, may elevator dyan. Elevator, first time to hear, kasi taga-bundok. Nagtinginan kami sa kasama ko. Then, nung tinuro, pumunta din kami. Then, may mga colors doon, may number. Ano kaya? Open, close. Then, tawanan kami because we don't really know. We are shocked na mayroon palang ganon. Then, yung isa nag-attempt na pipindutin yung open. Bumukas man. Then, pasok kami. Pagpasok namin, automatic man close. So, now, for how many minutes inside, grabing tawanan namin, hindi namin alam kung paano gawin. May number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yung mga stairs. Now, what happened? Mga 15 minutes, nag-open man uli. Then, may pumasok na isang babae. Then kami tahimik. Hindi kami nagpalata na ignorante kami and we did not know anything. Timing, pumindot siya ng number 8. Then hinay-hinay, nag-elevate kami. Paglabas, pagbukas, sinundan namin yung babae, labas din kami. Then after that, grabing tawanan. And why? Because we were shocked. Kasi wala sa bundok yon. But after those experience, ang ganda naman, now, natuto kami. Then, when I went to Maynila, nilipat na kami doon, at least may alam na. Hindi na nagka-culture shock kasi because of that experience. Ngayon, ang kasama ko naman, doon naman si LRT kasi during those times, yung token pa man, na may isa akong kasamang taga-bukid. Kasi grupo-grupo kami mga seminarians pag aalis, nahuli man siya. Then, nag-over the backwood siya, pinituhan ng pulis. Saan ang token mga ganito? Pinahiya siya. Then, namumula, of course, na-shock siya kasi wala sa bundok na mayroon pala yung hulog-hulog na token. And well, disoriented, disorganized, if you go especially to the big cities. And that's an example of culture shock. Kasi wala sa bukid. Now, why we need intercultural solidarity? In the previous presentation na pinakita ko, in Mindanao, there are 13 tribes, yung Bangsamoro. There are 18 tribes, yung IPs. And of course, for the settlers, marami din. So why there is a need with this tinatawag nating intercultural solidarity? So what about this? Focus on the different ethnic groups to avoid discrimination among them, discovering all issues and challenges in every culture. At the end, recognize the idea that our diversity will all serve as our strength in finding peace. So this is a good definition when we talk about cultural, intercultural solidarity. Diverse ang ating ethnics, different groups, in order to avoid this discrimination among ourselves. So therefore, kailangan itong solidarity. Sabi nga, discovering all issues and challenges in every culture. That's why we review the definitions, the characteristics, as well as the elements of culture para as a springboard of this intercultural solidarity. That's why at the end, recognize the idea that our diversity will serve as our strength in finding the so-called peace. Kaya nga our topic for today is peace and intercultural solidarity. And I know, you as a police officers, you already applied this one. But, I don't know if you realize na the discrimination, the so-called discrimination, nandyan pa rin. Nandyan pa rin. Maybe in our ordinary dealings with each other, with the enlisted personnel, kung kayo yung boss. Okay? But I'm happy today kasi sa hanay na ninyo, I think my priority, especially our brother and sister IPs, if they want to join your hanay, your organization, kung pasado lang sila, I think they are the priority. And why? Kawawa naman din sila kasi they are the minority. Minsan, wala silang voice. But nowadays, hinay-hinay na, umaangat din sila. At sino yung may dapat tutulong sa kanila? Tayo, the majority. Tayo, the majority. Especially the settlers. And of course, the Bangsamoro, kay marami-rami yan sila. At we have to avoid the discrimination of these people, especially the natives, the Lumads. Okay, we move on. There are dangers when to talk about culture. What are those dangers? Yung stereotyping, you're familiar with the stereotypes. Yung binabox mo na yung tao. Kasi meron tayong mga stereotyping. Ikaw Bisaya ka, ikaw Cebuano ka, Talawan ka. Ikaw Tagalog ka, puti ka og itlog. Ikaw Ilocano ka, kuripot ka. Ikaw Ilonggo ka, tikalon ka. Sa amon, damo, kwarta, ginapalag, ginapiko. Imo ingon sang Cebuano, ginapalag, ginapiko, pero ang utang, ginabuldos. So that's stereotyping, binabox yung mga tao. Okay? Then of course, prejudice. the biases with each other. Mayroon tayo dyan. Whether we like it or not, nandyan pa rin yan. Okay? Kahit na kayo, mga police officers, pagtingin ninyo sa inyong mga tauhan, sa pagmumukha pa lang, prejudice nandyan. O kahit nung nakita nyo ang pagmumukha ko, ano na klase ng tao, itsura pa lang, hindi mapatihan. Kita nyo? Prejudice. Then, the ethnocentric perspective. So, yun yung dangers of the so-called culture. So, we move on. What about this prejudice? It refers to a rigid and irrational generalization about an entire category. So, general categorization about the entire category. Irrational ha? Ibig sabihin, we're not using this. Then we tend to generalize. That's being tinatawag ng prejudice or being biased in the other term. Being biased. Like sa amin, ordinary citizen. Kung isang police nagkasala, there are times yung mga hindi nag-iisip, they tend to irrationalize and generalize everything. Same is true with us. In our church, kung may pare di dyan na loko-loko o may nagawang kasalanan, lahat generalize without anymore using the head, using the coconut shell. Lahat na napari, demonyo na. Okay, that's prejudice. Okay. Another thing, prejudice consists of rigid prejudgment about some category of people, unfounded generalization about the entire category of people. Sinabi na natin yon. Tina-judge mo na sila. You judge before knowing those person. That's prejudice. Kaya nga, according to William Hazlitt, sabi niya, prejudice is the child of ignorance. Prejudice is the child of ignorance. So what about this? So I think it's good to know about the types of prejudice para siguro maiwasan, hindi na natin ma-discriminate. The question, can you spot the racist baby? Siguro makita man ninyo dito sa apat dyan. Racist baby. May kulot, may kalbo, may inchik, may puti, may itim. Then ato pati kaagad sa atin in our mind yung itim. Itong itim. Okay? That's a racist baby. Ngayon, kung Asian ito, United States, ngayon, anong nangyari? Pag Asian ka, bugbugin ka ng mga Amerikano. Dito rin may issue din yan sila, puti and the black. Pag black ka, bad ka, masama ka, rascal ka, askal ka. Okay? The Asian. So that's the point there. Okay? Next, the first type of prejudice is racism. Racism. This is the belief of racial superiority. Racial superiority. What does it mean? If you are black and I am white, the white is superior. Okay? If you are ugly and I am handsome, I am superior. So the belief, or especially the race, when we talk about kaya nga racial, there is a very well-known poem here from the African Child, which was nominated as the best poem in 2005. Siguro basahin na lang natin ito. When I born, I black. When I grow up, I black. When I go in the sun, I black. When I scared, I black. When I sick, I black. When I die, I still black. And when you white fellows, when you born, you pink. When you grow up, you white. When you go in sun, you red. When you cold, you blue. When you scared, you yellow. When you sick, you green. When you die, you gray. And you shall call me colored. That's a well-known and nominated best poem in 2005 written by an African child. So that's an example of racism. Next, racism, this is the assertion that people of one race are less worthy than or even biologically inferior to others. And we have also the so-called institutional racism. Occurs in workplace when an operation of social institutions, including economy, schools, hospitals, and military and criminal system. That's more on institutional racism. So, pangmalakihan na ito kasi it's in the institution. The second types of racism, of course, the so-called sexism, the subordination on other on the basis of their sex. I think there is, until today, the problem. Because, what about the problem of this type? Kasi before, and I think until today, it is still existing, that tayo, mga lalaki, because of the macho image, there are times parang feeling natin na we have to be the superior because history would tell us itong macho image, the patriarchal mentality, na pag macho ako, marami akong asawa, marami akong boyfriend, girlfriend, talagang tunay ako na lalaki. Dan kayong mga babae, second class lang kayo. Kaya nga, I'm happy today, especially in our country, na mayroon na tayong God. And I think may budget din yan. Yung gender and sensitivity. And I think you have a lot of seminars on this. Sa aming institution, sunod-sunod din yung seminar. And I was one also of the speaker about this gender and development. There should be an equality. Okay? About this, when we talk about gender, man is dapat equal to woman. Pare-pareho tayo, we are created equal. Kaya nga, when we talk about sex, pare-pareho yan. Male and female should be equal. Okay? Once again, may problem yan ngayon. But sabi ko nga, I'm happy na may mga batas na, may God na tayo. That's why kayo sa police, I think may percentage kung ilan yung tatanggapin ng kababaihan. Kasi noon wala mang kababaihan na mga pulis. Ngayon may general na. Na sana in the future, mayroon tayong pinakataas-taasang babae na mamuno sa inyong hanay. Maganda yun. When you talk about politics, wala ding equality between babae and lalaki. Look at the Senate. Ilan lang babae? Teveros, Po, Binay, De Lima, meron pa ba? Si Marcos. Sa Congress, look at the Congress, mabibilang lang din ang kababaihan. And why? Because of this prejudice. Babae, dyan lang kayo. Second-class citizen kayo. So that's an issue now. Pero sana sa atin, wala na yan, mababae man siya, malalaki, you have to treat them equally. I think malinaw yan. The third types of prejudice yan. Heterosexism, and negative attitudes towards lesbians and the gay men. Okay. Kanina naman, equality of male and female. Ito naman, heterosexism, our negative attitude towards lesbian and gay men. There is a movement nowadays na malakas. You look at the flag there, the rainbow. They're also asserting their rights, especially when they talk about equality. Okay? Kasi ipinanganak daw silang ganyan. Kaya nga, there are dangers now. Anong danger? Hindi sila nanganganak, pero dumadami. Hindi nanganganak, dumadami. Sa inyong hanay, maraming bayot, maraming tumboy din. Everywhere. Yung iba tinatago. Pero huwag niyong itago, iladlad na ninyo para ma-assert din yun yung inyong karapatan. Kasi sabi nga, our Pope, Pope Francis, sabi na, who are we to judge? We don't have right to judge. They are also God's creatures. Who are we to judge? Sa aming hanay, as teacher, noon, maraming mga kababaihan lang ang nagtuturo. That's why when I took up my education in the University of San Carlos, dalawa lang kaming lalaki, pero ang tunay isa lang kasi ang partner ko is bayot. Pero friend ko siya. Hindi ko siya dinidiscriminate kasi mas bright man siya sa akin, nakakahiya. Who am I to judge him na grabing ka-bright, grabe kagaling? In our institutions, ganun din. Ang daming mga bakla pero magagaling. Kaya wala kang kabratan manghusga. Sino ka ba na manghusga? They have a lot of talents. Okay? And I think sa hanay din, mayroon din. Pero gamitin yung talents nila. Kung magaling sila sa decoration, gamitin. Magaling mag-MC, gamitin ninyo. Okay? So yan ha, that's heterosexism and negative attitudes towards lesbian and gay men. Kaya nga, tawag nila yung sa movement na LGBTQ. May I pa, may plus pa. Kasi yung iba, tawag namin sa Cebuano yung mga mayang bungol. Ayaw pa magladlad kasi nahiya, natatakot pa sa pamilya. Kasi si tatay, si nanay, mga pulis. And I think you know yung mga kwento na anak daw ng pulis. Ayaw man ng pulis na bayot ang kanyang anak at gustong gawing pulis din. During the day, talagang lalaki yan. But during the night, magbago ang anyo. No, nanghuli sa tatay. Dinublob doon sa drum. Ano ka? Babae, boy o girl? Ang tagal. Boy o girl? Then sa katagalan, sabi, tatay, Serena, hindi ako boy Serena, hindi din ako. So, kita natin, Serena. So, there are a lot, parang joke and a story. Then, another story about this tomboy at saka kabayutan. Bagong trainee na pulis. Tapos, sinusubukan ng instructor niya na pulis din. Of course. Then, pinabantay. May parang detachment. Then, bigla mang may dumaan. Na sinadya may taong dumaan. Pak, isang iglap lang. Sabi ng bayot na trainee yung pulis, hoy, hold good, oy. Kung di ka mo hold, pusilunta ka. Bumalik man isa, tugudong. Sayan. That's a joke. Pero once again, this is a prejudice against those people. But once again, balik tayo dito, who are we to judge? Mas magaling pa sila kaysa sa atin. And I think that's really very clear to all of us. Okay. Kung di ka mo hold, pusilunta ka. Okay. But there are times, based from my maybe observation in evaluation, okay lang man kung tumboy ka, kung bayot ka, or kung nagdududa ka pa sa kasarian mo, tanggapin mo. But the problem, pag sumusobra ka na rin, baguhin mo na yung boses mo, babae ka o gawing lalaki, umiinom ka ng pills para magkaroon ng dudo, palagay ka dito ng puwit mo, and everything, ang ilong dapat ipatangos para magmukhang babae. Okay. Ang ari, pinapalitan. And I think, I am not judging them, pero there is something wrong. There is something wrong. Kaya nga, I'm happy with the ibang bayot. Hindi namin yan papalitan. Kahit na bayot kami. Kasi in case of emergency, magagamit pa yan. So, yun yung joke nila. But once again, we know this one already. This is a prejudice, yung heterosexual sexism. The next prejudice, types of prejudice, classism. Distancing from and perceiving the poor as the other. Mayaman ako, pobre ka, dyan ka lang. Wala kang karapatan. That's an example of classism. Kayo, if you'll be assigned to the poor communities, Kahit na nasa taas na kayo, kasi mga official man kayo, na sana naman, go down to the level, especially to the poor, to the oppressed, to the marginalized. Sila yung nangangailangan ng tulong ninyo. Kasi yung pang-aapi nandoon sa kanila. Para mawala itong bias. Okay? Next, types of prejudice. Ayan. Ageism, a negative attitudes held against the young or the elderly. Young and elderly, ha? Kita natin. If you are still young, you will be hired if you applied to a job. If you are old and a senior citizen, blags ka, you are not hired because of your age. Kaya nga, ageism, our negative attitude towards or against the young or the elderly. In the United States, according to my friend there, doon daw sa kanilang mga cashier nila, mga tigulang, mas maganda. Dito sa atin, pag matanda ka na, wala ka na pulos. Kaya nga minsan nakakatawa. Ang age natin sa retirement kayo, pag na-retire kayo, kaya nga pabor-pabor, 56 mag-retire na kayo. Kami mga professor, 60. Sabi ko sana all 56 din para makapahimulos gihapon mi sa the rest of the years kung makaabot pa mang 60, dili pa madedo. Okay? Medyo bias pa sa atin, especially pag may edad ka, especially in our institution. Mag-60 ka na, retire ka na, mag-ano ka na. Minsan pinapadalhan ng sulat pag mag-60 na. Kahit na ang mandatory is 65. Di ba? Sa amin, mandatory is 65. Okay. So, now we know that's a prejudice yung ageism. Next. Ito talaga. The lookism. A prejudice against those who do not measure up to such standards of beauty. The usual victims are the overweight, the undersized, and the dark skin. Ayan. Yung look mo, talagang grabe. At tingnan mo, kawawa naman ang dati nating Vice, no? Familiar with this? May teleserye. 1997 yan, 2007 yan, 2010, 2015 up to the present, parang there is an evolution, nag-evolve. Okay? Pag nasa look yan. Another thing, ito, when it comes to beauty, the weight, yan, overweight, pag okay ito, okay ang dating kasi maganda, gwapo ito. Okay. So that's a prejudice against those who do not measure up the set of standards of beauty. Once again, itong pag overweight ka, kalahating tao ka o undersized ka, then underskin, maitim ka, kasi yun yung look mo, and that's a prejudice, especially pag mabuli ka. Okay. Next. Another type is linguicism, negative attitudes which members of the dominant language groups hold against non-dominant language groups. Ka-experience ba kayo ganito? In Mindanao, kahit saan kayo na-assign? Napansin nyo, if you know the language of that group, of that people, para bang you feel that you belong to that group. But if you do not know the language of that tapos may sarili kang lingwahe, then what happened? Minsan, anong ginagawa nila? Linuloko ka, binubuli ka, tinuturuan ka ng masama. I still remember, when I was the seminary, ito yung palaging kwento, na may Amerikanong missionary. Nagtanong sa mga bugoy, punta sa mga baryo. Sabi ni Father, what is prayer in Cebuano? Yung what is prayer in Cebuano? Sabi, Dapat mag-ampo, Father, ang tubag sa mga bugoy. Magtariki, Father. And I think you're familiar with magtariki. Then one time, may kinasal yung pari. Bago ka mo magkaon, magtariki. Pag humagkaon, magtariki gihapon. Bago ka mo matulog, magtariki. Okay? They are teaching the priest kabastusan. Because, majority man doon sa community, yun yung language nila. Pero masama lang nga, mali ang itinuro. That's why ngayon, natauhan din yung aming mga kaparian, mga missionaries, na mga hindi naman Pinoy, pupunta dito, bago sila immerse, bago sila ibabad sa community. I think dito sa Davao, marami ako mga kasama. I was here before in Davao Oriental. Yung mga kasama kong Italian na pari at saka yung may mga Amerikano, pinapaaral sila dito sa Merinol School, Merinol Fathers ng Cebuano. Kasi pagdating doon, para hindi na sila maloko. Ano ay? Kasi dangers ngayon, prejudice ngayon na nagtanong ka ng mabuti, masama yung ituturo. Ayun. Kasi they feel na majority language nila ikaw, hindi ka man marunong, bahala ka sa buhay mo. Pero pag may alam ka at talagang accepted ka, hindi talaga ito maanong taong ito kasi ang damo balaan. Okay, damo balaan. Okay? So that's another types of prejudice. The next type is ito. The religious tolerance. The religious tolerance. Prejudice against those who are followers of the religious other than their one's own. Ayan, ito na yon. Marami dito yung religious intolerance. Once again, this is a prejudice against those who are followers of religious other than one's own. Ang ato lang nga maluwas ka. Pag hindi ka member namo, dili ka maluwas. Kaya dapat magpa-member ka kasi maluwas ka. Different beliefs, different teachings, different ideology. Kamong mga Kristiyano, nito umuan ng cross, especially kamong Katoliko, idolater mo. Mali mo, di mo maluwas. Ganon yan. I have a friend, kasi nasa peace kasi ako. I'm a doctor of peace. Nagkaroon kami ng interreligious dialogue doon sa Kidapawan. Then during the mga proceedings na, may mga sharing na. Isa sa mga ustads nagsabi, katabi ko, sabi niya, Brother Juars, alam mo, every December 8, tagapikit mo ito ng ustads. December 8, napansin ko ba mga pagari mo, mga kapananampalataya mo, pag December 8, kita ko simbahan, punas-punas doon sa image, statue ni Mariam, ni Mama Mary. Tapos ganyan, iyak-iyak. Okay, at doon ko napatunayan, kayo palang mga Katoliko, mga idolater, kasi naniwala kayo sa rebulto, naniwala kayo sa imahen, naniwala kayo sa kahoy. Then sinabi, alam mo ustads, walang itinuro kami doon sa mga tao mananampalataya na sambahin mo yung kahoy, sambahin mo ang rebulto. Ang sa amin, we have to respect that. For us, that's the imahen, the image, the icon of Mama Mary, or the icon of Jesus, or the cross. Nirespeto namin yan, but we don't worship that one because hindi yan God. That's only a representation. Okay? Yung sabi ko sa kanya. Then, with that, they feel na miracles also happen to their life. Kaya nga, nagkaganon sila. But, pagtanongin yung mga taong yon, wala yung sinasabi, sinamba namin yon. Kaya nga, every January, Santo Niño, sa amin, mga Katoliko, sa Quiapo, the Black Nazarene. Kita talaga yung mga taong Katoliko, makahawak lang sa lubid. Mamatay-matay sinasamba talaga nila yung kahoy. Anong makukuha sa kahoy? Then, may bagong trending naman ngayon. Yung isang apostol daw siya, kuno. Yung cross mo. Ito, kinuha niya yung may in-interview siya. Uy, ano yan, butiki? Ang daming nagre-react. Butiki daw ito. Kasi para sa kanila, mga born again, sinasamba. Because of this religious intolerance na sila lang ang tama, kami ang mali. Kuha natin. So, balikan na yung kwento ni Ustads. Ayon, Ustads, ganito yan. We are not idolaters, but to respect the images because for us that's sacred. Dan sabi, binaliktad ko naman, binalikan ko sa ustads. Di ba nakahads ka na? Sabi niya, oo brother, nakahads ako. Di ba ilang araw kayo doon? Di ba? May mga rituals ginagawa. Then, paikot-ikot 7 times. Bago kayo nakarating yun sa Kaaba. Nakarating ka ba sa Kaaba, ustads? Yes, nakarating ako. Anong naramdaman mo? Sabi na, alam mo, brother Joars, yung malapit ako sa Kaaba, umiinit katawan, parang may nagtutulak sa akin, halos hindi ako karapat-dapat. Pero yung nahawakan ko, brother Joars, hindi ko mapigilan tumutulo na yung luha niya. Ganon to yan, ustads. Ano din ka pala? Idolater ka rin, ustads. Bakit? Bato man yan. Bakit hawak-hawak ka, iyak-iyak ka din? With that, hindi siya nagsalita. What is important here, you have to respect para mawala itong religious yung intolerance na ito. Respect. Kaya it is said na, if you want to be religious nowadays, you have to respect other religion. Respect other religion. Okay? Masakit pala pagbalikan. Okay? Now, especially in the Christian world, nowadays sa amin, whether you like it or not, all over the world, 1.9 billions na Catholics, kami yung pinakarami na Kristiyano. But the other group, the Protestant group, and the other born-again groups, they don't call us Christian. Kasi mga idolaters kami, mga pagano kami. Sabi ko, grabe naman ito. Who are they to judge us? Kami yung Katoliko nag-compile sa Bible, kami mga kaparian namin gumawa sa Bible, ngayon nakabasa lang ng Biblia. Sila na ang tama. Grabe ng prejudice and biases sa amin. Hindi lang karamihan man. Hindi lang kumain 3 days. Nag-fasting, nagdasal, paglabas sa kwarto. Anong paglabas sa kwarto? Mag-claim to be, I am the messenger of God. Sugo ako. Marami kami dyan sa mga Kristiyano. And surely dito, mayroon tayong mga kapatid na Iglesia ni Cristo. But please, wala ka marinig sa amin na pari, mga kaparian, mga madre, mga brothers, mga leaders of our church na naninira sa inyo. Okay. Kayo yung nasa top rank, mga dear moms and sirs, mga police officers. Sana tanggalin ninyo ito. But for us, alam ninyo yan. Wala yan sa inyo. Alam na, practice na ninyo na dapat tanggalin itong bias na ito. Kasi your men and women na under sa inyo, magkaiba-iba man talagang belief noon. Pero pag manatili yun sa'yo, ikaw talaga, ganito, ganyan, ayan, prejudice. Okay? So, balikan natin yung argument na if you want to be religious nowadays, you have to be inter-religious. If you want to be inter-religious, you have to respect other religion. And who are you to judge others? Before you existed, nag-i-exist na kami or sino man. When it comes to history, kami yung nauna. Okay? And you don't have the right to check. Kasi yun yung, hindi namin. Ano may pinapalabas kasi sa mga kapatid namin. Hindi namin gustong masakit. Gusto namin ito. Who are you na ituwid? Alam namin yun. Kami nagturo. Wag kayong karapatan ituro ninyo ang inyo. Wag niyong ituro ang amin na isira din ibalik sa amin. Okay, so that's a prejudice under religious intolerance. I think malinaw yan sa atin. Okay, so lesson here, please do not be an exclusivist. Yung exclusivist ba na, ako lang ang tama. Yung ganyan, parang mga kabayo na may renda. Ako lang ang tama. The rest mali kayo. But the lesson here, it is religious intolerance. Please broaden your horizon. Kasi nag-i-exist na yung iba bago ka nag-exist. And who are you to tell us na we are wrong? Okay, our doctrine, our teaching is wrong. It's unbiblical, especially to the Christian world. Okay? I think malinaw yan. Now, according to the research of Sedenio, culture can be observed in the following. From Sedenio, sabi niya itong ethnocentrism, and the second is the Xenocentrism. The ethnocentrism It is the practice of judging other culture using the standards of one's own culture. One's culture is regarded as the best or better than those of the others. Malinaw ito. Kultura namin, kami yung nandito. Kayo, wala. That's ethnocentrism. Yung binanggit natin kanina na danger, ethnocentrism, na ang amin lang kultura dapat sundin ninyo because we are the standard. Kayo, dapat kayong sumunod sa amin. Okay. Kaya nga minsan dito sa amin, sa Cotabato, of course, kanya-kanyang kultura yan. Pero pag may man nakita na mga kababaihan na hindi naghijab, hindi nagtundong, sabihan agad, ano ka man, para kang Christian. Ano pa ganito? Sabi ko, grabe, nagiging bad influence tuloy kami pag hindi ka magtundong. Anong karapatan namin sa inyo na bakit sumunod kami kayo sa amin? Okay? Nag-gets natin? Because they have their own belief, they have their own culture na dapat yun yung masunod. Then, when we're discussing also about yung kabayutan, yung LGBTQ, sabi ng isa doon na exclusivist, brother, alam mo brother, sa amin in Islam talagang bawal ang bayot talaga. Kasi talagang pinapatayan, hindi sa pinapatayan. Sabi ko, pag sure, sabi ko sa kanya, sabi, buksan mo yung mga mata mo. Dito sa amin, sa Polytechnic, mabibilang mo lang Kristiyano. Don't tell me na lahat na bayot yan, Christian. Buksan mo nga ta, majority ng bayod dyan, Muslim. Now, you are saying na kami pa rin yun ang bad? Gets natin? Because of that mentality, yung ethnocentrism, na they have their standard na dapat sundin. Gets? Next, the Xenocentrism. It is an idea that what is foreign is the best, and that one's lifestyle, products or ideas are inferior that of the others. Ayon, marami tayong yung tinatawag nating colonial mentality. What is foreign is the best. Kaya nga yung ibang mga Pinoy, mahilig ukay-ukay. Ang made in Marikina, kahit na ini-import natin kasi matibay, ayaw natin. Doon tayo sa China na ukay-ukay. Sa Amerika na ukay-ukay. Ibig sabihin, ukay-ukay, mga tapunin sila, ginawa natin ditong imported. Ito yung the best, what is foreign is the best. That's Xenocentrism. Kaya nga, yung iba, kapag magsuot ng mga imported, wow, galing ito ganito, made in ganito. That's a problem. Okay? Dala-dala mo yung lifestyle. Now, what is foreign is the best. It's better. It's good. Then, in addition to Xenocentrism, yan, sabi natin kanina, kaya nga, tingnan mo yung picture, dapat itim ka, dapat magdubli ka magpaputi ka so that you'll be accepted kasi ang foreigners should be puti. Kaya nga, that's why yung iba, kuskus dito, kuskus doon sa kanilang pagmumukha. Anyway, kasi gustong pumuti. Akala ang puti, yun yung foreign, yun yung the best. And another thing, because of this media, di ba, maraming pampaputi, glutathione, chinsanso, kuskus dito. Kaya nga yung iba, grabe kaputi dito. Yan. Pagdating dito, parang uling. That's a problem. Ito yung Xenocentrism. For them, dapat maputi. That's foreign. Okay. Then we have the term cultural relativism. This is the process of judging culture by its own standard. It is comparative approach that derives from an understanding and appreciation of cultures different from ours. So, cultural relativism. Judging culture by its own standard. It is comparative approach that derives from an understanding and appreciation of culture different from ours. So, yung relativism na yon. You judge other culture, pero ikaw pa rin yung basehan, more or less related to ethnocentrism, na nagsasabi na kami yung standard, dapat kami yung nasusunod. Now, to be in solidarity with other cultures, we have to understand the cultural differences. Kaya nga, in Mindanao lang mismo, in our context, there are a lot of cultures because of the IPs, because of the Sitler, because of the Bangsamoro. Then, in order to understand, there are some examples here. to be in cultural solidarity with other cultures, we have to understand the cultural differences. First, do not interpret the behavior of others through your own eyes of your own culture, but do be aware of how much culture affects language acquisition and behavior. So that's an example. Do not interpret once again the behavior of others through your own eyes with your own culture, but be aware of how much culture affects language acquisition and behavior. Next, in understanding cultural differences when it comes to religion, when it comes to faith, first, don't compare religions. Don't compare religions. And why? Pag ikumpara mo yan, sa atin, Christians as well as Muslims, we have similarities, we have also differences. But dwell on the similarities. Do not dwell on differences. Because if you dwell on differences, it will create conflict. Tandaan ninyo yan. Kasi walang magpatalo dyan. But once again, when I talk about faith, our religion, don't compare religions. But do share the beauty of religions. Ayan. Share the beauty of religion. Kaya nga, you have a lot of things to talk about religion. But to compare, wala. But share the beauty. Yun yung kagandahan. Maraming si-share dyan. Then, don't or never touch the Quran if you are unclean. That's from an Arabic text. But ask someone, if you are a Muslim, to open and read it to you. So that's in the Islamic perspective naman. Kasi minsan, pag unclean ka, you can ask those who are worthy to touch or to read it for you. Pwede naman. So yan yung kaiba-iba. Then, don't defecate or urinate near the masjid or to the church or a sacred place, important to the community, but do urinate in the proper place. So, wag pataka ba? Dito sa atin sa Pilipinas, bawal umihi dito. Bakit linalagyan? Kasi mga kalalakihan, strike anywhere. Then, if it is a sacred place, ayan, problema yon. Then, do not burn the Quran or even the Bible, even the church. Then, ask the fellow to protect the masjid, the Holy Quran, and the Bible. At dito sa atin sa issue. Remember Marawi? Remember Hulu, our church there, our cathedral in Marawi? Sinisira, the images there, the revolto there, tinatanggal. After that, sisigaw, Takbir, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Then sabi, they are not the real Muslim because a real Muslim has the respect to other religion like what Prophet Muhammad. Nagre-respeto siya sa kapwa, whatever is the religion. Hindi yung sunugin. Then, yun, sa religious intolerance yun. I went to Hulu last February. So, nandoon pa din yung minsan takot. But ang kagandahan doon, then, the other place also yung sa Basilan. Pag Sunday, nandoon yung mga young professionals, Muslim professionals, pag Sunday, nandoon nakapalibot sila sa simbahan. Binantayan yung mga kapatid ng Christian. Pag Friday naman, during sambayan, nandoon naman yung mga Christian friends nila, nakapalibot pala binamantayan. Yun yung ganda, di ba? Ang ganda. Different cultures, different belief, different religion, at least may respeto. Then, in meeting people, do not say hello or hi and why. What do you think? But do salute them with words accepted to them. Kuha natin. In Islam, Assalamualaikum. Kahit na ako, Assalamualaikum. Kahit di ako Muslim, but using the language, I think, naintindihan nila. Then may shake hands pa yan with ganyan. Na I accept you, I respect you as my friend. Okay. Ngayon, pinagbawal naman yan ganyan. Assalamualaikum. So, wala na. Ganyan na lang muna. Duterte, shake hand. Pinagbawal man. But, why? You don't say hi or hello. Gupunta ka sa liblib na lugar. Ano yung hi? Ano yung hello? hindi ka maintindihan. But use the language in which kung sino man yung mga tribo or mga tao doon. Mayong buntag, maing aga, maing hapon, naimbag nga bigat, naimbag na kayo, naimbag na rabi, madayaw na pag-abot. So dapat alamin mo yung basic. Kasi ramdam yun ng tao na taga doon, wow, alam nilang lingwahe natin. So mas mamahalin ka nila. Then, don't pay them with certain amount if they don't ask. Then give a community a project. So kung nandoon ka, kasi yung iba, mahilig mag-bribe. Sige na, ganito, ganyan. Kaya nga, when I had my research, when I went to Ninoy Aquino Municipality, sa mga Dulangan, Manobo, yung iba nagsasabi, mga leaders, alam mo brother, dito, ang dami-dami ng mga researcher. Tapos, binibigyan kami ng pera, ganito, ganyan. Kaya yung mga tao naghihintay ng dole out. Then, when I went there, pag wala kang dalhin, walang lalapit sa'yo. Kaya nga, sinubukan ko. Nauna, doon kami, may usapan, may point person. Pagdating doon, walang tao. Then yung sasakyan, may linabas na ng mga token na dala ko. Dumadami yung tao. Anyway, kasi sinanay din yung tao na yung binibigyan. Parang dole out. Problema tayo dyan. Same is true with you, kayong mga pulis. Mayroon kayong mga project. Give them project. Na yapat yung project na yun, yung sustainable ba? Hindi yung instant one, yung parang dole out lang. Okay. Another thing, in understanding cultural differences, let them see, let them see that you are a problem. And do lead by example and be a problem solver. Ayun, dapat gawin. Then, don't mingle with women, with their woman, or talk in private or in public. Then do the right approach. Why? Yung don't mingle with their woman or talk in private or even in public. Because there are culture na bawal kausapin mo. Kaya nga sa amin dito, o kayo, na-assign mo yung iba dito, hindi basta-basta hawak ka ng babae. Then, how much more kung kausapin mo? Especially kung baguhan ka. Okay lang kung familiar na kayo with each other, wala namang problema. Pero, but if you do the right approach, okay lang man din, walang problema. Kaya nga, don't, but do the right approach. Minsan, may protocol, magpaalam ka pa. Pwede ba kausapin itong grupo ng kababaihan? Kasi ganito, may ganito ako. So, that's the right approach. Okay? Then, when it comes to customary tradition, don't step on the shrine or destroy it. And of course, that's self-explanatory because that place for them is sacred. Then help the community to refurbish the shrine. Kung sira-sira na yun, tulungan sila. Then, don't discourage people to visit the graves of their ancestor to the mountain peak. Sa Cordillera, di ba, meron kayo? Okay? Nandoon yun, mga mamis na. Kaya that's a sacred place. Nandoon yung mga ancestors. May paniwala, may kultura. Then, instead, construct road and pathways to the grave. Ayun, maitutulong mo. Then, be aware of cultural differences. So once again, everything you do regarding time, personal space, body language, voice volume, small talk, eye contact, the hygiene, and eating is shaped by our culture, which is true. Our body language, kanya-kanya yan. Ito, voice volume. Sabi nga, the Ilonggo, galit sila, no, hindi sila paggalit pag sila, kundi malumanay, malambing sila magsalita. Kaming mga Cebuano, gahi kaya na magsalita. So, ganun kami. Kaya nga, kung ikaw, to be of the cultural differences, alamin mo. Hindi kayong mga Tagalog dito, grabe, katigas-tigas magsalita, ganito. Intindihin mo kasi ganun kami. When I went also to Manila, I studied in the seminary. Of course, aware na ako na dapat medyo malumanay, medyo okay yung pagbigkas, pero hindi mo iwasan, Cebuano. Matigas talaga. Minsan, binubuli ako sa mga classmate ko, pero yung na-assign din sila sa Cebu, binubuli din namin. Pero mali yon. Dapat, yun dapat titingnan. Okay, eye contact. May mga meaning din yan. Okay? Then, When you have a colleague that appears to have cultural difference, take time to understand the differences. And I think alam ninyo ito. Okay ito, iba yung practice niya, intindihin ko ito. O kahit na yung kayo, marami ditong Kristiyano sa inyo, may kasama kayong mga Muslim, intindihin nyo, ito yung dapat hindi makain dapat. Ito yung dapat gagawin, hindi dapat ito painumin. Okay? Sige. Then, when it comes to eating habits naman, in understanding cultural differences, in Asia, we use chopstick. Pero sa mga Pinoy, wala tayo dyan, no? Then sa Europe, the knife and the fork. Then sa atin, sa Pinoy, di ba? Majority, kain kamay. Clean right hand. In some countries, including us, I think, including us, then, minsan yung iba sa common plate, parang, budol fights. Hindi lang plato, pero pa ganyan. So, nagdepende din yan sa eating habits. So, in addition, the beef, the pork, the horse, and everything that moves, pwede yang sa iba makain, pwede yung sa iba hindi yan makain. Bawal. Especially the pork sa mga Muslim as well as sa ibang relihiyon. Then, yan, sabi na natin kanina, for the religious reason, bawal ang pork sa mga Muslim. Ang mga Christians keep horses, dogs, and cats as pets. May mga ganon. Ang fish naman is neutral, makakain yan sa lahat. Pero depende rin sa fish kasi yung mga walang mga kaliskis sa mga kapatid natin, mga sabadista, hindi dyan kinakain. So, dapat alam din natin yon. Then, when it comes to religion, nabanggit to kanina, but in addition, religion is an important place in many societies. The knowledge of religion is very, very important. Then, respect religious beliefs. Yung sabi ko kanina, if you want to be religious, you have to be inter-religious and respect other religions. Then, when it comes to family and gender, ito, may ibang mga kultura din. Elders are highly respected in some cultures, yes. Then, understand the family ties, especially tayo. Kaya nga tayo, dapat magkalapit-lapit yan. Okay, because of this family ties. Then, different gender beliefs and views. So, magkaiba-iba din. Ikaw babae, wag kang magbike. Ikaw lalaki, wag kang maglaba. Ayan, may mga ganon. Okay? When it comes to communication, language is culture specific. Malinaw yan. Then avoid the use of idiomatic expression. Bakit? Kasi yung iba, baka nasasaktan, nasasagasaan mo. Then, what about the humor? Okay lang na hindi naman humor katawanan kag nawong, kundi the humor na maganda man yun, may sense of humor ka, nagdadala ka enjoyment sa grupo, okay lang yun. Pero wag lang ding pasubrahan. Kasi yung iba, sumusobra na, pambubuli na, problema yon. Then the body language, the gestures, the body language have different meanings. So, nagdepende yan. Then, smile never be misunderstood. Yung sabi natin, Mother Teresa said, peace begins with a smile. Because smile in all culture can never be misunderstood. Because you are bringing good vibes. Then, polite handshake is accepted in most cultures, yes. When it comes to dress code, depends on the culture, customs, tradition, and the climate. Then adapt to local customs o costumes. So there are some na talagang ina-adapt nila, sinusunod nila yung iba't ibang costume. The next, when it comes to traffic, peacekeeper die in traffic accidents, then the different traffic conditions, the local traffic laws, adapt the local conditions. So kanya-kanya yan. In Australia, I think in Papua New Guinea, nasa kabila yung kanilang manubela. So sa atin, wala man yun. So, tinan din yun. Kasi that's iba-ibang kultura. Then when it comes to time, tingnan ito. People have different concept of time. We know that one. Especially, ang iba, wala man. Wala yung sa rilo-rilo, yung modern technology. Then there's a need to understand. Sabi nga, you have the clock, we have the time. Especially sa bundok-bundok ka, alam nila, alas 7 na ngayon, ito, 12 o'clock na dito. Tinitingnan lang ang araw. Sabi nga, you have the clock, we have the time. Kaya do not dictate, kahit na wala silang relo, pero alam nila yon. Then, in building intercultural solidarity, understand your own culture first. There's a need to understand kasi pag sabog kultura mo naintindihan, magka-problema ka din. Understand and accept the logic of the other cultural frameworks. Then cultural differences as unique and creative problem solving opportunity. So now, ang dami nating alam, as mas maganda kung baga, you can be jack of all trade when it comes to culture, especially kayo kasi palipat-lipat yung assignment ninyo. At surely, alam na ninyo yon. Kasi mga opisyal kayo, saan kayo ma-assign? Ma-assign ka doon sa mga Manobo Akil. Alam ko na yon paano ako mag-adjust. Dito naman sa Ilonggo ka ma-assign, dito sa Ilocanuhan, dito ka sa Maranao ma-assign, dito ka sa ano. So, yan. Dapat alam mo yan. Then, nabanggit na ito dating cultural shock kanina. You are familiar with the language, the climate, the currency, the road signs, the colleagues, and there is a need to adapt. Okay? Then, if you are humble, respectful, friendly, you'll always be fine. Ang ganda nito, no? To be culturally aware and to be in building in cultural solidarity, if you are humble, respectful, friendly, you'll always be fine. Then, there's another study. There are principles of intercultural solidarity. The first principle is intercultural understanding and critical respect. The key to solidarity with people of various cultures is critical understanding and respect to the basic differences of these varied cultures. It is not enough that we know the differences. We have to look at it positively and appreciate the differences. So, intercultural understanding and critical respect. Look at the other culture positively and appreciate the differences. Okay. Second, overcome prejudice, stereotypes, and discrimination. I think alam na natin ito kahit na hindi natin basahin yan. Wag na, iwasan natin. Do not put people in the box kasi yun ang tendency sa atin. Then, third, transcend personal and institutional system. An extra initiative must be taken to look beyond our personal and institutional system to really have the authentic cultural solidarity. We have to cease from believing that our culture is sole culture here on earth and others just revolve around us. We have to accept the significance and contribution of each and every culture. Kaya nga, magle-level up ka, mag-transcend, transcending oneself to the institution. Huwag man natili dito sa kundi, kung baga malawak na ang nararating. Nagtatranscend ka na. Then, from assimilation to unity and diversity or cultural diversity. Respect comes when we will be able to appreciate and learn to live in diversity. This does not mean that the so-called dominant culture shall exert influence to other cultures. This is a call for critical acceptance of cultures that seem exactly opposite from the mainstream culture. So, unity in diversity. We are united as human beings, but diverse in our culture as well as the ways, the rituals that we had. But we are still united. Bottom line there is respect. Respect. Then, malapit na tayo. Solidarity helps us to see other people and nations as neighbors. Take note on that. Solidarity helps us see other people as nation, as a nation as our neighbor. Yan. Maging sinong lahi ka man, anong lahi mo, anong rasa mo, anong reliyon mo, yun yung titingnan that we have to be in solidarity with these people. Then solidarity means people care about and feel responsible for each other. It means that they have a sense of individual awareness and reciprocal responsibility. It means that people are conscious of the fact that when they give, they receive. That they can only give what has been given to them, and that what they have given never belongs to them for themselves alone. So it's for all, it's for everyone. That's why there is a need to understand one's culture. Then solidarity is a determination to commit oneself to the common good. Because we are all one family, we are responsible for each other. To be in solidarity with others, we must work to overcome barriers of race, religion, gender, nationality, ethnicity, and economic status. Solidarity prevents rich nations from being indifferent to the poverty and human rights violations experienced by people living in other nations. Then, how do we practice the so-called solidarity? Take note, we practice solidarity whenever we work for a common good. I think yun yung trabaho natin lahat, especially kayo, our police officers. Then we practice solidarity whenever we work to overcome the barriers that prevent us from reaching out to others. For example, treating people equally regardless of their gender, race, or nationality, or national origin. Another example is striving for the service of more just society that respects the rights of all people. Then another, promoting interreligious dialogue and tolerance. So there is a need nowadays. I had my study about interreligious dialogue program in our Archdiocese of Cotabato. Then last year, I was able to present this one in the international conference in Cebu City. Kung may siguro, I can share with you. Pwede naman siguro, pero mahabang usapin ito because there is really a need. An example of solidarity. We have to promote interreligious dialogue. Interreligious dialogue. So, yung dialogue with other religion. Okay? Then another example, donating or volunteering to help people in need even if they are far away. Like Yolanda, tumutulong tayo kahit na malayo sila. Like Marawi, like Hulo, like Sulo, tumutulong tayo kahit na malalayo yung lugar. Because I think kayo, nagdo-donate din kayo. Then, another example, speaking out against injustices and human rights violation. Sa Pilipinas, alam nyo, may issue tayo dyan. Injustices, speaking out against injustices and human rights violation. Bago lang no, sa Bukidnon, I think aware kayo doon sa balita. Pag, ganun ang tauhan ninyo. Yung patay, linagay yung 45. And it happens before sa tukhang. Kung sino mang mali, may mali. Pero may mali, talaga alam natin na sa sistema. Inustisya, meron. Alam ninyo yon. Hindi lang kayo magsalita. Kaya alam ninyo yon. Kaya nga, pag kami, nasa mga taong simbahan, pag magsalita, kawawa din kami. Binubuli din kami sa ating presidente. May problema nga. Kaya nga, speaking out against injustices and human rights violation. Well, malapit naman matapos ang term, we will know what will be the next, ano namang mangyari sa Pilipinas. Kasi the problem of tukhang, the problem of drugs, nandyan pa rin. The problem of injustice, especially the kawat, especially the corruption, nandyan pa rin ha. Kasi military man linagay sa PhilHealth, nawala ang issue. But billions ang pinag-usapan. Alam natin yun, pero nawala na ngayon. Ngayon sa ating pandemic, may injustices ba? Alam din natin yon, buksan na lang natin. Okay, may mga nangyayari na politicize lahat. Okay, whether take it or leave it, alam natin yon if you use your critical thinking. And I think kayo alam ninyo yan. Pero minsan, di lang kayo maganyan. Kasi, of course, if you're against them, delikado ka. Dapat susunod ka. Okay? Kaya kami, pag mag-against kami, may threat agad yan. Marami na kaming pari. I think pari natin sa Davao, si Father Bert. Okay, si paring Bert. Kawawa, may threat. Hindi lang siya, si Father Robert din. Reyes. Mga obispo namin, mayroon din. Kasi they are speaking out against injustices and human rights violation. Pero wala kayong pakialam, ganito, ganyan, gawin ninyo yung trabaho ninyo, separation of the states. Sabi nga, ano yung voters ID nila, itapon na lang yun, wala silang karapatan magsalita. Nagkataon lang na taong simbahan sila. Pag magsalita, sila ang masama. But well, hindi natin palawakin yan, but you know, if in solidarity, speak out against injustices and human rights violation. Then another example, itong in solidarity and politics, solidarity can affect our attitudes towards several current political issues. So marami tayo dyan, especially nowadays. Political issues, land conflict, meron tayo dyan. Politika ba yung sa China nga ngayon? I think hundreds yung mga nandoon sa ating teritoryo. Minsan, walang magsalita na taga-gobyerno, si Luksin magsalita pero tamimi minsan. Okay, may problema dyan. Mga political yan. Yes, that's more on politics kasi president to president, country to country. Dito sa political issues din, pag magsalita si Lacson, magsalita si Robredo, mali ka, mag-aral ka. In fairness naman, hindi naman lahat. Kung may mali man sila, may mali din sa kabila. Kung may nagawa silang kabutihan, kung may mali man, pero ang problema, very biased. Okay, yung the prejudice, wala kang alam sa law, magkuan ka sa law. That's an insult, pero, well, nasa power. So, yun ang problema. Okay? Yun ang problema. Yun, kinuha ng parang drug czar, na ngayon, nakipag-alyansa para malutas yung mga mabig time, tinanggal kasi hindi sumunod sa protocol. May problema. Okay, so yan that's more on politics, saraming issue. Ngayon, another issue pala sa politics. Grabing pandemic, kulang ang ating vaccine. Anong ginawa? May grupo din. Go, 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 Sara for president. Go, go, go. Halos lahat sa buong Pilipinas, may mga tarpaulin. And they're spending thousands or billions of money. Why not give that to the poor for the vaccine? Bakit ngayon? That's politics. Is it in solidarity? May problema with the system. Okay, you know that one. Then, what can the CAP do? Anong CAP kayo mga pulis? Or what can the culture of peace do? Culture of peace promotes cooperation across cultures. It opens the opportunity to imbibe cultural understanding between and among people and identify steps to overcome issues and challenges. For example, it motivates all cultural groups to dialogue and cooperate in people-oriented development programs for the benefit of the poor, regardless of ethnicity and culture. So yun yung nakakatulong in culture of peace when we talk about intercultural solidarity. Then, ano namang magagawa mo? Express positive value in whatever appears foreign to you. Then, demonstrate a positive attitude of new culture. Foster feelings of being at home. Once again, maganda ito. Foster feelings of being at home. Then, focus on the uniqueness of each person. Yun yung magawa natin sa tinatawag nating peace and intercultural solidarity. It's because all of us, we are called to work for and promote the common good. We are called to work for both local and global peace and justice. According to Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world. Once again, Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. Why do people choose to help others? In order to answer this question, we are going to explore stories of people who devote their time and life to make the world a better place. Then, hashtag, you have to practice solidarity or the intercultural solidarity by their police officers. Then, thank you very much. May the peace be with you always. May nag-text sa akin, sinasabi, Sakaling ako'y lumisan, alalahanin mong ako'y tunay na kaibigan. So maraming salamat sa lahat. I am your friend. I am Brother Joe Alferez. God bless you all. Since this is a recorded parang video, so I hope you were being refreshed and you learned something. Once again, God bless you. Dalaygon ang Dios. Sa ngalan, samahan, ug sa anak, ug sa Espiritu Santo. Amen.